"She is here," said his sister, and Rowan, Duke of Eidsworth, set down his glass so carefully that not a drop of it trembled, because if his hand had shaken he would never have forgiven himself. "Beatrice Vane, in the doorway. Rowan, do you hear me? After 5 years." He heard her. He had heard nothing else since the words left her mouth. Across the length of the Ashbourne ballroom, past the whirl of silk and the blaze of the great chandeliers, a woman in dove gray stood at the threshold as though she were not entirely certain the floor would bear her, and the whole glittering room had gone the way rooms do when the past walks into them. A ripple, a hush, 100 fans lifting to hide 100 whispers. 5 years. He had counted them the way a prisoner counts stones in a wall. "I did not know she was in England," Rowan said. His voice came out level. He was proud of that distantly, the way a man is proud of a thing that costs him everything. "No one did. She went abroad after her father after all of it. They said she would never come back." His sister's hand tightened on his sleeve. "Rowan, whatever you are about to do, be kind. She has been to hell and come home the long way." He knew that. He knew it better than his sister could guess, because he had followed the whole of Beatrice Vane's disappearance the way a man follows the retreat of a tide he loves, the death of her father in disgrace, the collapse of the Vane fortune, the exile to a cold house in the north where an aunt had taken her in on sufferance, and then the silence. 5 years of silence. He had written. He had written 11 letters over the first 2 years and received not one reply, and he had told himself, at last, that she had made her meaning plain, and he had stopped. He had not stopped, he had only stopped writing. Now she was here, thinner than he remembered, her dark hair dressed simply, her gown 2 seasons out of fashion, standing alone in a doorway while the county's finest turned their well-bred backs, and every year of the silence dropped away from Rowan at once, and he crossed the ballroom. He was aware of the room turning to watch. The Duke of Eidsworth did not cross ballrooms. He stood at the edge of them, brooding and unassailable, and let the ambitious come to him. He had refused 3 heiresses and countless invitations, and had earned, over 5 years, a reputation for a coldness that frightened mothers and thrilled their daughters. He crossed the floor now as though none of that had ever been built, and he did not stop until he stood before her. "Miss Vane," he said. Beatrice looked up. Her eyes were the same gray-green, grave, with that steadiness in them that had undone him at 24 and undid him again now. But there was something new laid over the steadiness, a wariness, the look of a creature that has learned what open doors cost. "Your Grace," she dropped a curtsy, correct and cool. "I did not expect," she stopped. "I did not expect to be recognized." "You did not expect me to recognize you." He heard the difference, and so did she. "Those are not the same thing." A faint color came into her cheek. "No," she said, "they are not." Around them the room had arranged itself into an audience. Rowan was conscious of it and did not care. He had spent 5 years caring what such rooms thought, and it had earned him nothing but the silence. "Will you walk with me?" he said. "The gallery is quieter. People will talk." "People have talked for 5 years, Miss Vane. They are practiced at it now. Let them earn their supper." He offered his arm. She looked at it a long moment, the offered arm, the whole offered ruin of a duke publicly claiming a disgraced woman, and something moved behind her grave eyes that might have been the ghost of an old warmth, quickly hidden. "One turn," she said, and took his arm, and the ballroom exhaled behind them like a held breath let go. The long gallery of Ashbourne House ran cool and dim, lit at intervals by branched candelabra, the portraits of dead gentry watching from the shadows. They walked without speaking at first, and Rowan let the silence be, because he had learned that Beatrice Vane was not a woman to be filled with talk. When she spoke, it was to the middle distance. "You should not have done that," she said. "Cross the room. They will punish you for it in the small ways they have. And it will not help me. I am past helping, Your Grace. I came tonight because my aunt insisted a Vane must be seen to hold her head up, and I intend to be gone within the hour and to trouble no one again." You wrote me no letters, Rowan said. She stopped walking. He had not meant to say it. He had meant to be careful, to be kind as his sister had bidden him. But 5 years had been a great weight of silence, and it came out of him all at once, low and rough. I wrote to you 11 times, to the house in the north. I told you a great many things. I told you I did not care about your father's disgrace, that I had never cared, that I would come to you the moment you gave me leave. And you sent me nothing, not a line. Not a refusal even, which a man could at least have understood. Only silence, until I was fool enough to believe it was an answer. He drew a breath. So no, you will not be gone within the hour, and you will not trouble no one again, because you have troubled me every day for 5 years, and I find I have run entirely out of the patience to pretend otherwise. Beatrice had gone white. She stared at him, and her hand had risen to her throat, and when she spoke her voice was not cool at all. 11 letters, she whispered. 11. I received none. The gallery seemed to tilt. Rowan reached out and steadied himself against the cold marble of a windowsill, and for a moment neither of them could speak at all. None, he repeated. Not one. Beatrice pressed the back of her hand to her mouth. Your Grace Rowan, I wrote to you, in the first weeks when they took us north. I wrote to you 3 times before I understood that a Vane could not decently write to a duke and beg him to remember her, and even then I hoped. I watched the post for a year. For a year I watched the road for a rider. And nothing came, and I understood at last that a great man does not tie himself to a ruined house, and that you had been kind to me once when it cost you nothing, and wise enough to be silent when it would. Her voice broke. I built my whole peace on that silence. I taught myself to be grateful for it, that you had let me go cleanly. Your aunt, Rowan said. He knew it the moment he said it. Your aunt took the house north because she took you in. She controlled the post. Beatrice's eyes filled. She said she always said that no letters ever came for me, and that I was a fool to hope, and that the sooner I put away childish expectations the sooner I might be of use. A tear went down her cheek, and she did not wipe it. She burned them. She must have burned them. All this time. All this time, Rowan said, we have grieved each other alive. They stood in the dim gallery with 5 stolen years between them, and Rowan Eidsworth, who had refused 3 heiresses and frightened a county with his coldness, felt the whole architecture of his loneliness come down at once. He had believed her indifferent. He had built a man out of that belief, hard, unassailable, done with hoping, and now the belief was ash and the man had nothing left to stand on but the truth. I never forgot you, he said. Understand me. Not a season passed that I did not think you happier away from me and hate the thought and cling to it because it was all I had. When my sister said your name tonight I set my glass down with such care because I did not trust my hand. He took a step nearer. Beatrice, I have waited for you. Through every one of those years, without knowing I was waiting, without hope of it, I have waited for you, and you are here. And I am not fool enough twice to let a silence, or an aunt, or a whole ballroom of small punishments take you from me again. She was weeping now quietly, the way a woman weeps who has held it for 5 years. You cannot mean it. Look at me. My gown is 2 years old. My name is a byword. I have nothing. You have every letter I never got to send, he said, written on your face where I can read them at last. That is more than any heiress in that room could offer me if she came draped in the mines of the world. He took her hand. It was cold, and it turned in his and held on. I do not want the woman you were before it all fell. I have grieved that girl too. I want the woman who watched a road for a year and taught herself to be grateful for a silence rather than break, because I know now exactly how strong she had to be, and I have never in my life admired anything so much. Beatrice looked down at their joined hands, then up at him, and something came back into her grave gray-green eyes that he had not seen in 5 years and had never expected to see again. The old warmth, unhidden now, flooding in. They will make it very hard, she said, but it was not a refusal. It was a woman counting the cost with her hand still in his. Let them, Rowan smiled, a rare thing, and it changed his whole hard face. I am a duke, Beatrice. I have spent 5 years being feared for nothing at all. I should very much like to spend the rest of my life being feared for something worth the fearing. A man who married the woman he was told he could not have, and dared the county to say a word. A laugh escaped her, wet and disbelieving. You would ruin yourself. I have been ruined for 5 years, he said. I simply had the manners not to mention it. The door at the gallery's end opened. It was his sister, and behind her, hovering with the particular expression of a woman who has controlled a household for a decade and feels the reins slipping, was a lean gray lady in bombazine, the aunt. Beatrice went rigid. Rowan did not release her hand. He turned, quite calm, and looked at the aunt down the length of the gallery, and the temperature of his voice dropped to the register that had frightened heiresses. "Madam," he said, "you will have wondered these 5 years why the letters you took the trouble to intercept never brought a duke to your door. Wonder no longer, he is here." He drew Beatrice's hand more firmly through his arm. "You have been the guardian of Miss Vane's correspondence. You are relieved of the office. She goes tonight, under my sister's protection, and you and I will discuss at length, and soon, the exact disposition of a certain small fortune left to your niece by her mother, which I have some reason to think has been rather more your comfort than hers." The aunt's face did a great many things at once and settled on none of them. She had counted plainly on a disgrace too deep for any duke to touch, and had gambled her own comfort on it, and had lost the whole stake in a single sentence. She opened her mouth. Rowan's sister, who was enjoying herself enormously, stepped smoothly between them and steered the woman firmly back toward the ballroom, and the gallery was quiet again. Beatrice was staring at him. "My mother's money." "Later," he said gently, "there will be time for the reckoning of it. There will, I hope, be time for a great many things now." He lifted her hand and pressed his mouth to her cold knuckles and felt them warm. "But tonight I find I want only one thing, and it is not vengeance, and it is not the ballroom, and it is certainly not another 5 years of silence. Come away with my sister. Rest. Eat something. You are far too thin. And in the morning, when you are steady, I will come to you, properly, in daylight, in front of God and the neighbors, and I will begin the whole thing again from the first word, and this time no one will burn it." She began, helplessly, to smile, and it was the smile he had carried in the dark for 5 years and thought he had dreamed. "And what," she said, "will the first word be?" Rowan considered her thin and grave and unfashionable, and the only thing he had ever wanted, and felt the last of the cold years go out of him for good. "The same as the last," he said, "the same as it has been all along, whether you heard it or not." He held her eyes. "Beatrice, I have waited for you." They were married before the summer was out, in the plain gray light of an ordinary morning that neither of them would have traded for a coronation. The county talked, as the county does, but the talk turned in time from scandal to something more like envy, for it became plain to everyone who saw them that the feared Duke of Eidsworth had, against every expectation, become a happy man. He was seen to laugh. He was seen to walk with his Duchess in the Eidsworth lanes, her hand always in the crook of his arm, the two of them talking in the low, easy way of people who have finally stopped being afraid of the silence between them. And in the great house's library, in a small locked box that Rowan gave into Beatrice's keeping on their wedding day, lay 11 letters, unsent all over again. For he had sat down in the weeks between and written every one of them out fresh from memory, so that she might read at last what she had watched the road for a year to receive. She read them slowly, one a night, and wept over every one, and when she had finished them she came and found him in the dark and put her hand in his. "You waited," she said. "I waited," he answered, "and I would wait again the whole 5 years and 5 more for this, for you here, for the door open and no one to close it." He turned her hand over in his and kissed the palm. "We have the rest of it now, Beatrice, every unburned day. Let us not waste a single one being anything other than glad." And they did not.